What does that mean? What is that all about?
Drew just, I mean, it's a big group.
Oh boy, I come up here. That doesn't make me feel very good.
Andy,
No, not you.
How much better can Drew be in year 2 of your program now that you guys really, really know each other?
You know, he's really good, right? So what is growth and how much improvement, what does it look like? I think, you know, just whatever, he can get a lot better. Everyone can, but it's going to look in subtle ways. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whatever, not to sound, you know, whatever coach speak, but to the layman or the untrained eye, it might not be as noticeable, his improvements. You know, people are going to look at stats, and those are easy things to look at, and that can be improvement. But you know, decision making, because not everyone knows what's involved in the decision making that he's making, I think is one of the easiest things. And then the total mechanics of the offense, I think you would see from him as just a total comfort. So it's a little bit of a long way to answer your question, but I think he can improve a lot in year 2.
I'm sorry, you mentioned earlier this month about it being more of a collaborative thing with him this year. And I was just wondering, what does that mean? Like, how would you explain that to us?
Okay.
For example.
Right. Yep. So for example, with him, okay, and I've always done this, but like, so what I did last week with him. I said, okay, hey Drew, we got our last week of fall camp. What are some things that you want to rep again or reintroduce? Or here's the list of things I haven't introduced yet. Here's the list of things we've done. What do you want to go back and reemphasize? Which of these do you want to add? That would be a great example at this time of year that we're doing it. When you get into a game week, hey Drew, here's what we're thinking for, you know, 3rd and 1, you know, whatever, 3rd and 10. Okay, here are the 5 plays. What do you think of them? They're good. Which one would you want to make the first one and why? Right. So you're having real dialogue about him with it, and you know, him being involved in that process. You know, because he's mature, because he's got experience, because of his football acumen allows that to happen.
Andy, how would you evaluate the development of the tight ends throughout fall camp so far?
Really impressive. I think someone asked about Andrew Rappleyea earlier in camp, and I tell you, he has totally knocked the rust off, which has been awesome to see. I think the last 2 weeks have been fantastic for him. You know, we always talk about Khalil Dinkins, and I say that I don't talk enough about him, right? Okay, I said that last year, and then you have Luke Reynolds, and so you look at those 3 guys who are probably going to have the lion's share of the reps right now. But I'm super excited about the youth in that room and the other guys that are in there, and where they're going to progress and develop. So the development of that whole group has been fantastic. It's credit to Coach Howell, Coach Rocca, what they're doing to those guys, because they're good. And the kids, right? They're doing an awesome job learning.
Similarly to the wide receivers, what have you seen from their growth, and specifically with Drew getting comfortable with his new targets?
Well, you kind of answered the question a little bit with there's growth and relationship with Drew. There's an understanding of what we're doing offensively, and quite candidly, they're showcasing what they're capable of doing. Right? You see him making plays. You see him making big time contested catches. You see him, interacting with Drew at a level. It's like, hey, you got to get to this spot back here. Drew says that. He goes, all right, I got you. I understand that. So that's where they're growing.
Talking about Dinkins specifically, Tyler was a 5th-year guy last year. Khalil's the elder statesman of the tight ends room this year. Do you see any similarities between those two?
Well, I think they both do. Yes, right. They're different, but they're similar. You count on them both to catch balls. You count on both to block. You know what I mean, and be true all-around tight ends, and that's hard. That's easier to say than actually do for the tight end spot. There's most guys that really kind of excel at one end of the spectrum or the other, right? As a ball catcher or a blocker, Dink and Ty showed elite traits in both of those areas, which is rare.
Andy, James said again, the expectation here every year is to win the national championship. When you got here last year in the building on a day-to-day basis, how does that expectation manifest itself? How do you pick up on that?
Well, you don't. I mean, people talk about it, and everyone knows that that's the pinnacle, right? But like the reality is, and I've said this before, and I don't want to sound like a broker, but if you're a process-oriented person and you're a part of a process-oriented organization, you don't really give a shit about that, because you're just caring about what do I got to do today to help us get that goal. So people can talk about that, but the reality is, I'm not even thinking, because I'm like, what do we got to do to have a great freaking practice? What do I got to teach the players? What do I got to make sure the staff is on the same page? What do I got to do to the practice phase or the script to make sure that we're maximizing this day, this moment? And I know that sounds like coach speak, and I know that sounds like some crap that you'd read in a leadership book, but it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? you want to be at a place where that's the expectation, the pinnacle, that's a reality, right? And that's where we're at. But the reality is we're only going to get there because of what I just said. You know what I mean? Taking it one day at a time, taking it one practice at a time, one meeting at a time, and winning those.
Well, having said that, how much of, if any, but there's some, of the Nevada game plan do you have in?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a decent amount, you know what I mean, right? And when I say that, like we're always, every time that we're an opponent, we're going to be an opponent, we're going to be who we are. So we're going to showcase what we do well. And so knowing that and identifying that, and already in the whole year of 2025, we know what that is. And so those plays that we execute at a high level, we want to do that again in every game, right? So there's a chunk of that in. You spent a little time looking at it, but fall camp, spring football, summer, the focus is on us. You know what I mean? Now, we'll look ahead, in the spring, right, about what is, the 2025 schedule look like, who are they playing, what are we expecting to see in general terms from defensive schematically that we got to make sure we're prepared for, so we don't get blindsided with, exotic coverage or exotic front that we've never talked about with the kids when you get into a week. So, but when you look at, your first opponent specifically, the calls that you're going to make are the ones that you feel the most comfortable calling, throughout all spring football, fall camp in the summer, because there's a little bit of, they don't know. They could totally change what they're doing defensively, right? And what they did last year might not be as much as what they're doing this year, right? And the same thing for us. Things that we're better at now than we were a year ago, right? We're going to call more or call less, right? So there is some uncertainty always when you go into a game, but the first opponent, there's a lot of that, a little bit more.
To follow that, who are you? What is this offense?
Well, it's a multiple pro style offense that uses spread concepts and focuses on the capabilities of the players.
Can I
multiple?
Can I ask about the quarterback situation, and not necessarily when Drew's under center, but you haven't been afraid of putting anybody under center to take a snap, whether it's a tight end, backup quarterback, second quarterback, I should say, or anybody else. How do you think about the starting quarterback still being on the field and generating viable threats with all 11 players? In that situation, to make sure that you still maintain that advantage that you're trying to get of having somebody else under center?
Yeah, so what you're asking to me, I think fundamentally how you have to answer that is it worth taking Drew and not having him take a snap and putting someone else there to take the snap? You have to evaluate that, right? Because whoever's doing that is probably not going to be as good at Drew of doing the things that Drew's doing, right? So there's going to be a limitation of who's doing that. Now, as you evaluate it, you say it would be worth it because of this, this, and this, and it won't be worth it because of this and this, and you feel like that the positives and the stress it causes on a defense outweigh, maybe the negative of taking it away from the ball out of Drew's hand. Then you may say, let's do it. Let's not. So we'll do whatever, to be able to move the football effectively and generate explosives and put stress on defense, whatever that looks like. But it's not a guarantee, one way or the other, because you don't want to do it just to say you do it. You know what I mean? You want to do it because you feel like it's going to be effective.
What are the factors that are going to go into determining who's QB2? What are these guys going to have to show you? What is a winning candidate going to look like?
Well, you look for accuracy, you look for decision making, you look for their ability to execute the offense. You know what I mean? The things that you would all assume and think, right? And both Ethan and Jackson have done a good job of that all fall camp. So, getting closer, you know what I mean? But certainly not in a position to be like, yeah, that's the guy right now. You know what I mean? So. They've all developed, you know what I mean? They've all gotten better, which is, critical, that should happen. As a coach, really identifying what are their individual strengths and how, in which we've done this, is, hey, this guy does this better, this guy does that better. What can we call more of and less of for each of them? We'll do that, you know what I mean? Which is what we would do for our starting quarterback. So I've always thought play to the strengths of that position. It's not an offense. The players are the offense, right? So what do they do well? Let's make sure that we're doing those things.
Hey, Andy, in that collaboration with Drew, what are his responsibilities, maybe if the situation presents itself, to adjust any sort of play calling or here? I mean, he's better.
He has a set of parameters, you know what I'm saying? Like I think what you're asking is like, okay, he gets at the line of scrimmage and he sees a look, you know what I mean? It's a bad play. Can he change the play? And the answer would be yes, but he will need to know and knows the parameters, how that works mechanically. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And like that's part of what I think he does a great job of is he'll know that this play is good against everything. He'll know that this one's not good against this look and how to get out of it and what we're going to get to, because it's not just him changing it, it's making sure that 10 other guys know what it is. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what we do as long as we're on the same page about what it is. And so He definitely has that because he's got experience or can do that. But with anything, there's usually a bucket. You know, there's parameters within every play what you need to change it to.
Does that help you as a play caller, even with your play sheet and selecting what goes into the game plan? Because you can get from A to B, and you don't need to have so many plays that have just like there's an answer for everything in them.
Yeah, you typically want to feel like these plays you're talking about have an answer for everything. Like that's kind of your base offense. Like you're going to know how to block this run play against all these different fronts and pressures. You know how you're going to throw this pass concept against all these coverages. You're going to know how to do this protection against all these different pressures. So starting there as an offense in terms of execution. But to answer your question, yes, it does make it a little bit better because the expression, the coach speak, right, who has the chalk last, right, is that's who is usually in the best position to help their guys execute. If your quarterback can be the guy who has the chalk last, that helps you a lot. There's the system, right? Everyone looks at the sideline, but then the defenses play the game of, rechecking and checking, and you're playing this little back and forth game that, we have a clock, so eventually, we got to just snap the ball. But when the quarterback does it, it tends to make it a little bit more seamless, a little bit quicker, get on the same page, snap the ball.
Andy, given the success of the running backs last season, having both Katron and Nick come back this year, what are your expectations from them and the rest of the running backs in terms of matching last season's production or surpassing it?
Well, you expect them to be damn good running backs, right? You know what I'm saying? So you expect them to be better, right, than it were. I don't, what does that look like in yards and production? You don't know, right? But I know that they're better. You know what I mean? They've improved in the last calendar year. Coach Drake and Coach Walker have done an awesome job with those two guys specifically. The way that they've gone about their business and identifying, like, hey, I want to, I said this before, but like they're diversifying themselves. They're not just taking the handoffs from Drew. They're lining on the perimeter. They're doing different things. You put them both in the field at the same time, and that takes some learning on their part in order to do that stuff. And they've done it. So they're going to be better because they can do that for sure. So that's the expectation.
If you're, one more.
Get in. Sure. What the hell? Let's go.
Okay. There you go.
Sorry, Greg.
If your end goal is to win on January 19th, does it matter if you're playing Nevada or Texas the first week?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I know. Like our opponent is us. You know what I mean? Like you could come into our meetings the night before a game, and I want to ask the guys, so what do we worry about? And they're going to say us, right? It doesn't matter who you're playing. It really matters. What are you capable of, and are you doing it? You know what I'm saying? And so schedules and all that, you got to put the ball down and play. Let's go. You know what I mean? So you got to do it, right? So yeah, there might be certain matchups or whatever across the country. People see rankings and all that shit. Like, it don't matter, right? Like, you got to go play. You know what I'm saying? So our opponent is us. It's always going to be us, and whoever we line up against, however good or bad that opponent is perceived to be, it doesn't matter. Because if we don't play to our potential, we're pissed, right? We're not happy as a program if we don't play like we're capable of playing. So that's what comes down to. Are we good enough to play to our capabilities?
Good answer. Thanks.
Greg, see that last one?
That was a good one, right?